Welcome back, Warrior Kids. My name is Pam Palmater, and I am the host of the Warrior Kids podcast, which of course is taped before our famous live studio audience, Cricket. I'm a Mi'kmaq professor who has created this podcast to celebrate everything Indigenous and work with Warrior Kids to help make the world a better place. If that sounds like something you'd like to do, then join us here every Wednesday and learn some really cool things along the way. Yes, I know, Cricket. We are all really excited to start Season 2 of the Warrior Kids podcast. And today is the perfect day for a podcast. You know why? Because today is Orange Shirt Day. That's right. But I imagine that some of you Warrior Kids already knew that. Some of you might even be wearing an orange shirt today. I also know that there are some amazing parents, teachers assistants, and early childhood educators that have put a lot of work into preparing for today. But there are lots of Warrior Kids who haven't yet learned about Orange Shirt Day, especially those who don't live in the northern part of Turtle Island, also known as Canada. Today's podcast, talking about Orange Shirt Day, has a little bit of sad stuff in it. And it's okay to feel angry or sad when we hear about sad things that have happened in the past. But the good news is that Orange Shirt Day also has a lot of happy and hopeful things in it too. Today is September 30th, and that's the day that we honor all of the Indigenous children that were sent away to residential schools in Canada. It is important that we honor these children because these residential schools were not good schools, not like your school or home school. These schools hurt Indigenous children by taking them away from their families, communities, and nations for months or even years at a time. This made all the Indigenous children and their families very sad. The government set up these schools to be run by churches, and in those schools, children were not allowed to speak their languages, practice their culture, or even sing their traditional Indigenous songs. Many of the people who worked in those schools treated the children very badly. And these schools operated for a really long time, like more than 100 years. That means that many generations of Indigenous families have been impacted by those schools. That is why the Government of Canada has officially apologized to Indigenous peoples for creating these schools and for all the harms that they caused to the children and the families. First Nations, Métis, and Inuit leaders were all there in Parliament when the Prime Minister apologized for the schools and promised that it would never happen again. Today, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis governments work hard to give their children a good education, like all other Canadian children. What's that, Cricket? Oh, okay. So Cricket wants to know why people wear orange shirts. Why don't they just wear purple shirts? Well, that's a really good question, and there is a very special story behind why the shirt is orange. And the story goes like this. One of the children that went to residential schools was named Phyllis Webstead. Phyllis's grandmother gave her a bright orange shirt to wear on her first day of residential school. But when she got to the school, the teachers took away her orange shirt and never gave it back, and that made her really sad. So Phyllis wanted to turn her sadness into a way to honor all of the children that were forced to go to those schools. So she started Orange Shirt Day to help educate people about what happened in residential schools so that it would never happen to Indigenous children again. What's really amazing about Phyllis's story is that she has inspired people all over Canada to learn more about Indigenous history and to work together to make sure that all kids are treated fairly and get a good education. I really like how Phyllis turned her sad feelings into hope and action. She even wrote a storybook about her experiences, and it's called The Orange Shirt Story. Now everyone can read about it, even when it's not Orange Shirt Day. The other amazing thing about this education movement she started is that now you see people wearing these orange shirts that have all different native designs and artwork on them. People are proudly displaying Indigenous culture on these shirts. You'll see Mi'kmaq designs, Anishinaabeg designs, and even Cree designs. While these shirts may all look different, they all include the same message. Every child matters. Isn't that great? Every child matters. Which reminds me, we need to choose a Mi'kmaq word to learn today. What should it be? Oh, that's a great idea, Cricket. Let's learn how to say child in Mi'kmaq. Unjan means child. Unjan. And there is another important word. Wigamag means family. So we have two words today. Unjan means child and Wigamag means family. I really like these words, and I think they're very appropriate for today's podcast, which honors Indigenous children and families. I also think it goes along great with the key message on Orange Shirt Day, that every child matters. And that makes me really happy. Some of Phyllis's story made me sad, but seeing everything she did to create Orange Shirt Day and spread positive messages that every child matters, well, that makes me really happy. What makes me even happier is seeing all the kids all over Canada wear orange shirts, learn about Orange Shirt Day, and do lots of fun activities in their classes, like creating amazing artwork and even enjoying some native drumming and singing. As Cricket and I are sitting here recording this podcast, I'm wearing my very own orange shirt. And you know what's extra special about this particular orange shirt? My big son, Mitchell, bought it for me and gave it to me as a gift last year. This almost made my heart burst because I realized that in teaching my big son, Mitchell, about Orange Shirt Day, he decided to volunteer at his own work to help teach other people about Orange Shirt Day. This is the very same reason why Cricket and I make these podcasts. Oh, okay. Let me start that one over. This is the very reason why Cricket and I and Alligator make these podcasts. Because we know that once warrior kids know things, they get inspired to do things and do good things in the world. So thank you so much, warrior kids, for listening on this very important Orange Shirt Day. And we learned a lot today on the Warrior Kids podcast and probably even had lots of emotions. We were sad to hear about residential schools, but happy to see Phyllis and many other people helping to educate about Orange Shirt Day. We were sad to hear about residential schools, but we were happy to learn about all of the people inspired by Phyllis. We also learned that every child matters. Children from all different cultures, religions, abilities, locations, and even size. Short children, tall children, and all the children in between. Every child matters. We also learned how to say child and family in Mi'kmaq. Do you remember? That's right. Unjan means child, and Wi'kmaq means family. So, warrior kids, we've worked on the education part of this podcast. Now, how are we all going to take action? Well, if you have an orange shirt, you can definitely wear one. Maybe you can ask your teachers to show some of Phyllis's YouTube videos to your class. Or listen to our previous Warrior Kids podcast with Cindy Blackstock and Spirit Bear, who has the mission to promote fairness for all children. Maybe your library has a copy of Phyllis's book that you can read. Or, my favorite activity is when Warrior Kids make artwork about what they learned and send pictures of them in action or send stories about the action they took. Whatever it is, I would love to hear about it. So maybe your parents can help you send me some of your stories and artwork. And if you're looking for fun activities, then check us out online at www.warriorkidspodcast.com. We have free coloring pages, free books, and even free calendars that can give you lots of ideas for things to do. Thank you all for listening, learning, and acting on Orange Shirt Day. Till next time, later Gators!